In the 14 years Ibrahim Pasha served as Grand Vizier, he signed more death warrants than any official in Ottoman history. In March 1536, Suleiman had him strangled in his sleep in a room 3 doors from the Sultan's own bedchamber. The official record lists no reason. It never does. You were in a different room that night. You have thought about that fact many times since. You learn about power the way you learned Ottoman. Not from being taught, but from watching what happens when it moves. It has been 3 years since the Nikah. You have 4 living children. Mehmed is 10, Mihrimah is 9, Selim is 7. Abdullah died in his 2nd year, and you do not count him among the living, though you count him among everything else. Bayezid is 4 and has your father's eyes, which is something you have never said aloud, because your father has been dead for 11 years, and no one here knows what his eyes looked like. You have your own seal now. The Tugra is smaller than Suleiman's, as it must be, but it is yours, pressed into correspondence that leaves Topkapı in your name. Addressed to officials in Cairo, to the governors of provinces, to charitable foundations you have endowed in Jerusalem and Mecca and Constantinople itself. The Haseki Sultan Mosque in Aksaray is under construction. You gave the land. You gave the commission. You gave the order for the Chini tiles in the prayer hall to match the ones in your rooms, the blue and white of Iznik. You have had the word for 13 years. What you are learning now is a different kind of vocabulary. Not the names of things, but the names of arrangements. Who reports to whom? Which decisions require the Sultan's seal and which require only the appearance of it? Where the actual weight of a conversation sits, relative to what is being said aloud. This is what Ibrahim Pasha has always understood better than anyone else in this palace. You have watched him for 7 years. You have watched the way a room changes when he enters it, not the way it changes when Suleiman enters, which is a change in gravity. A subtler change, a change in attention, people becoming slightly more careful about what their faces are doing. You have watched him stand beside Suleiman in the way that means he already knows the outcome of the conversation. You have watched the papers that pass through his hand before they reach the Sultan's desk, and you have noticed which ones arrive slightly altered in emphasis. You are not certain what you know. You are only certain of what you observe. When your letters to the provincial governors receive responses, those responses pass through the Grand Vizier's office before they reach you. This is protocol. It has always been protocol. But protocol and practice are 2 different words, and the gap between them is where most of the actual empire lives. The last letter from the governor of Egypt took 11 days longer than the distance requires. You do not say this to anyone. You write it down in the margin of a page in Church Slavonic, which no one in this palace reads. Then you count the days again to make sure you have the number right. 11 days, not 10, not 12. You fold the paper and put it with the others. There is a conversation you are not present for. You know this because Suleiman tells you about it afterward, in the careful way he tells you things that are already decided. Not asking, but reporting, the way a man reports weather. He has returned from the Safavid campaign, 14 months away. Ibrahim Pasha commanded in his absence, negotiated the peace at Amasya, signed the treaty. The treaty is called the Peace of Istanbul, and it ends the Ottoman-Safavid War. Ibrahim signed it with a title. The title he used was not Grand Vizier, it was Saraska Sultan. Sultan. Suleiman tells you this, the way he tells you other things. Sitting, evening, the lamp between you. He says the word once, Saraska Sultan. He does not say what it means that Ibrahim used a title with Sultan in it. He does not say what it means that Ibrahim negotiated a peace treaty in his own name, rather than the Sultan's. He does not need to say these things. You have known for a long time that there are things you understand about this palace that Suleiman does not want to understand, and that your understanding of them is something he values and does not acknowledge valuing. You say nothing about Ibrahim Pasha. You ask about the campaign. You ask about the eastern roads. You ask about the food, which is something you always ask about, because Suleiman finds it grounding. He talks for a long time. You listen, and while you listen you count, without meaning to, the number of times he says Ibrahim's name. 9 times in an hour. The 10th time he says it, something in his voice is slightly different. Not anger, not suspicion. Something quieter than either. Something that has been there for a while and is only now close enough to the surface to hear. You hear it, you do not name it. You file it with the other things. The letter comes from a woman you have never met. She is in Edirne, the wife of a mid-level palace official. She writes to you because she has heard that Hürrem Sultan sometimes reads letters and sometimes acts on them. She writes carefully, in Ottoman that is correct but not elegant. Her husband was passed over for a promotion that was promised to him. The official who blocked it is a client of Ibrahim Pasha. She asks for nothing specific. She describes only what happened. You read the letter 3 times. You are aware that this letter could be many things. It could be genuine. It could be a test of your intentions, sent by someone working for Ibrahim. It could be both. A genuine complaint that has also been noted by people who are watching where your attention goes. You have received 47 letters like this in the past 2 years. You have counted them. Several are from merchants, from minor officials, from men in provincial cities who have heard that there is a point of access in the palace that is not the Grand Vizier's office. You have responded to 11 of them, carefully, through the charitable foundations, through endowments, through the placement of a word in a conversation with Suleiman that was about something else entirely and happened to include a name. You do not think of this as politics. You think of it as the geography of a city you have lived in for 15 years, knowing which roads lead where and which ones flood in spring. The woman in Adern does not receive a direct response. 3 months later, her husband receives the position. You learn this from a second letter she writes, which is nothing but gratitude and the specific detail that her youngest son, born the previous autumn, has been named after your eldest. You fold both letters and put them with the others. You count the letters in the box. 49 now. Ibrahim Pasha knows. You have known that he knows for perhaps a year. You know it, the way you know most things here. Not from evidence, but from the quality of the air in a room when he is present, and you are also present. A particular calibration of his attention that he extends to things he is deciding what to do with. He is Greek by origin, from Parga, taken into the palace as a page boy at approximately the same age you were taken into the harem. He has made himself, by intelligence and proximity and a quality of attention that you recognize because you have spent 15 years developing a version of it yourself, into the second most powerful person in the Ottoman Empire. He is also the man who has Suleiman's trust in the way that has no political category, the way a person trusts someone they grew up with, a trust that lives below reason and is not accessible to argument. You do not hate Ibrahim Pasha. What you feel is closer to a kind of professional attention, the attention of someone playing the same game at a high level and watching the other player's hands. What you know is that he does not want you involved in the affairs of the divan. Letters addressed to you have been delayed, examined, and in at least 2 cases, you are nearly certain, never delivered. A charitable foundation you sought to establish in Sarajevo was denied a land grant that should have been routine. The denial came from an office that reports to the Grand Vizier. What you know is that he signed a peace treaty with the title Sultan in it. You do not know what Suleiman will do with that knowledge. You do not know whether the conversations you have had with him in the evenings about the administration of the eastern provinces, about the proper scope of a Grand Vizier's authority, have moved anything. You do not know if you have moved anything. This is the thing you cannot count. It has no number. You feel its absence, the way you feel the absence of sleep, a kind of blankness where a fact should be. On the 5th of March, in the year 942 of the Hijri calendar, Ibrahim Pasha is summoned to dine with the Sultan. He dines. He stays the night, as he has many times before, in the palace guest rooms in the 3rd court, 3 doors from the Sultan's private chambers. The servants who bring him his evening meal note, "Nothing remarkable." The guards at the corridor note nothing remarkable. Sometime in the hours between the last prayer and the dawn prayer, the Sultan's mutes enter Ibrahim Pasha's room. You are in your rooms on the other side of the palace. You do not know what is happening. You do not hear anything. The palace at night is a series of sealed spaces, and what happens in one does not reach the others, unless someone carries it. You are awake, as you often are, in the way you have been awake at night since the road in 1520. Not anxious, not waiting for anything specific, simply the habit of wakefulness that settled into your body in the mountains and never fully left. You are sitting by the window. The Bosphorus is dark. The Asian shore shows its 6 clusters of light, the same 6 that were there the night before the Nika, the same 6 that will be there tomorrow. You count them, as you always do, 6. You think about the letters in the box, 49. You think about the word Saraska Sultan and the quality of Suleiman's voice the 10th time he said Ibrahim's name. You think about the 11-day delay from Egypt. You do not know what the mutes are doing 3 corridors away. You do not know that by the time the call to dawn prayer sounds over the city, Ibrahim Pasha will be dead, his body already being removed by men who will not speak of it, his property already being catalogued in registers that will list no cause. The official record will say nothing. It never does. You learn from the garden. Specifically, you learn from the absence of Ibrahim Pasha's attendants in the garden, which is where they take their morning tea when he has stayed the night. They are not there. You sit for a while with this absence. The fountain is running. The cypress trees are the dark green they are in every season, unchanging. The sky above the 3rd court is the pale blue of early morning, the same sky it has always been. You do not know yet, with certainty. You know only that something has changed in the architecture of the morning, a weight that was present yesterday and is not present today. You count the cypress trees along the garden wall, 11, as they have always been. You count the tiles on the nearest wall, You lose count and start again. You sit with what you do not know. This is a skill you have developed over 16 years in this city. The capacity to hold an unknown fact without filling it with assumption. To let the shape of an absence tell you what was there. By midday, the news has moved through the palace the way all news moves, around the doors and through the gaps. Ibrahim Pasha is dead. Executed. The word that no one uses but everyone understands, by order of the Sultan. You receive the news from Fatma, who tells you the way she tells you everything that frightens her, very quickly, as if speed makes it less real. You say nothing for a long time. You think about the peace treaty. You think about the 11 days. You think about the 49 letters in the box. You think about the conversations in the evenings, the lamp between you and Suleiman, the particular care with which you placed certain words in certain positions, the way you chose what to say and what to leave for him to find himself. You think about whether what you did and what happened are the same thing. You do not know. You are 30 years old. You have lived in this city for 16 years. You know 11 letters of a dead language, 49 letters in a box, 6 clusters of light across a strait you have never crossed. You do not know what you are. The fountain in the garden keeps running. The cypress trees are 11 and unchanging. The sky above Topkapı is the pale blue of a morning in Roxelana, the spring before everything changed. The spring you were filling the bucket with the wire repair. The spring the sky was the same color it has always been, above every city you have been carried through since. You count the trees again. Still 11. You put your hands in your lap, and you look at them for a long time. The way you looked at them in the ceremony room in June 1534. The way you have looked at things all your life, when you needed to know whether they are still what they were. They are. They are your hands. That is what you know.